Okay. Well, thank you very much all for joining us. Really appreciate that you're giving us the time, and I hope you find the seminar really interesting and informative. I know we've got people from all over the island here, and you're all very welcome. Some of you already know a lot about the Church of Sanctuary movement, and I suppose its parent organization, Places of Sanctuary. And some of you don't know anything about it at all, but by being here, you're already expressing your desire to be welcomers, to be people who express care and love to all those who are with us here on the island, no matter where they come from and no matter their circumstances, and that's really, really great. And you're also hoping that your churches will be places where those desires are expressed. So thank you for joining us. So we hope that this meeting will inform you about what the Church of Sanctuary movement is, how it works, what it can bring your church in terms of facilitating it and resourcing it to be a place of welcome and a place of sanctuary, and of course how you go about joining it and what you have to do to make that happen. So we've got great speakers here today. We've got the Reverend Dr. Inderjit Bhogal, and Inderjit is the founder of the City of Sanctuary movement and the Churches of Sanctuary movement, which is part of that. So he's going to explain how that came about and its biblical basis. And then we have Rev Abigail Sines. Abigail is Dean's Vicar in Christ Church Cathedral, which is Ireland's first cathedral of sanctuary. So Abigail is going to explain the process that they went through, what it's meant for them, some of the ways that they've worked this out. And she's going to do that with Ellie Kisyombe. Ellie is a social entrepreneur. She's the founder of Our Table. And Ellie is also the first asylum seeker who ever ran for political office in Ireland. And Ellie has been involved a lot with many of the Church of Sanctuary events in Christ Church Cathedral, and we'll speak about that from her perspective along with Abigail. So thank you very much, Inderjit, Abigail and Ellie, for being willing to join us and share all of that with us today. We really appreciate that. Now, as they're speaking, you will be able to raise questions. There's a Q&A function at the bottom of your screens. So please feel free, whenever it occurs to you, to add questions to that. And then later on, after everybody's contributed, I will be able to put some of those questions to our speakers, and we can hopefully have a bit of a useful dialogue out of that. So yeah, do feel free to use the Q&A function as we go. So I think that's everything we need to do as far as introduction is concerned. So at this point, I'll hand over to Inderjit, if that's okay, and Inderjit will open in prayer for us before sharing with us a bit about how Church of Sanctuary came to be. Thank you, Inderjit.
Thank you, Damien. Can you hear me? All clear? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Very good. We'll begin with the prayer and then I'll go into my presentation. So let us pray. Holy God, we bless you. You are creator and you make each one of us beautiful and blessed in your image and likeness. You are with us. You are our refuge. You take sanctuary in us. You call each one of us by name. You know all our hopes and desires. You know all our aches and pains. You know the journeys we take. Your presence surrounds us like a sanctuary. Holy is your name. Holy are your ways. We bless you for all you give in Jesus Christ. In him you have shown the world new ways of living and loving. We bless you for all you give to us in your Spirit, new understandings of your word and wisdom, strength to live by each day. Holy God, forgive us for all the ways in which we and others assault and abuse your image in us, in others, and in your creation around us. Forgive us that our living and loving so often betrays the living and loving of Jesus we profess. Forgive us for our failures to offer welcome and hospitality to the stranger. Forgive us for turning away from your wisdom and for ever imagining we can live in our own strength. So bless us and all who are gathered with us this morning. Bless us as we reflect on scriptures and meditate and share together. And bless us as we renew our commitments to you again and resolve to live by the principle of welcome and hospitality. And grant to us the assurance that you forgive us, heal us, and strengthen us, that we may share well with each other and then go from here to live and love and serve you to your praise and glory. Hallowed be your name in all our work and witness, and hallowed be your name in all you call us to be, to do, and to say, in the name of Christ. Amen. I greet you all in the name of Christ and wish upon you the peace and blessings of God. It is a real honor to meet with you in Ireland and to share with all who are gathered together. Those known to me, others who are new to me, lovely to have your company with us. I'm thankful for your commitment to help churches to engage constructively with refugees and people seeking sanctuary. And I want to thank Damien and all his team who have arranged this session and for inviting reflections on the theme of Church of Sanctuary. I want to record my thanks to Bob Fife and through him to the churches together in Britain and Ireland for owning Church of Sanctuary and for investing in the development and promotion of Church of Sanctuary, and to Richard Reddy, who is with us, for his energy, enthusiasm and expertise with which he supports me and this work. Thank you, Damien and Nicola and Abigail and Ellie for your encouragement and support and all that you bring to this seminar. I want to acknowledge the good work of the local Church of Sanctuary already going on across Ireland, and we will hear about some of this later, as Damien has said. In my words to you today, I want to invite you to promote the development of Church of Sanctuary movement across the island of Ireland. A movement is built on the strength of working together around a common cause and idea. And I would like to see every church, we shouldn't have to encourage this, it should be in our very DNA to be a church of sanctuary. And I'd like to see every church in Ireland, with the support from the Irish Council of Churches, becoming a church or a cathedral of sanctuary in Ireland. This is my challenge to you this morning. A movement is composed of shared enterprise and collective action in which people work together for justice and the fullness of life. And the lead is taken by people at the local level who act for social change. We can see this in all kinds of movements all around us, like Extinction Rebellion and Black Lives Matter movement for climate change and racial justice. Work at the local level, at the street level, that's what really affects change and makes a difference. And we can imagine a Church of Sanctuary movement around many local church members and congregations who want to extend and express hospitality to people suffering the vileness of hatred and hostility. Churches are unique in that we are close to people, closer than most other organizations, and we have an incredible resource in so many people who are part of church congregations. My hope for this session is that you will have a good understanding of what Church of Sanctuary means and help to develop and promote it in Ireland. And my hope is to hold conferences like this across the 4 nations served by CTBI. We've had a conference like this in Edinburgh in March this year. We were hoping to hold this particular one in April this year in Dublin, but owing to COVID-19 had to change the framework. So it's good to have this online event to commence the conversation. And alongside Church of Sanctuary, CTBI has worked with the Refugee Council and City of Sanctuary, Places of Sanctuary, to establish an annual Sanctuary Sunday, which will be the Sunday at the end of Refugee Week. So 20th of June, 2021, Sanctuary Sunday. Note that in your diary. It's a Sunday on which to focus on these particular themes specifically. An annual reminder to call us back and to recommit ourselves to ensure that our work with refugees is rooted in our worship and prayer and engages our congregations. And to support this, I have prepared a resource called Hospitality and Sanctuary for All, and you can get it from the CTBI website. Sanctuary and hospitality are at the heart of ancient Irish and Celtic spirituality. In Nendrum, for example, on the shores of Strangford Lough are the ruins of a 5th century monastery established by St. Caelan. Within the walls of the monastery, there's clearly a space where sanctuary was provided for people who were fleeing violence and whose lives were in danger. In Glendalough Monastery, County Wicklow, you can see and touch the sanctuary cross. The Celtic term Ancherman refers to an area around churches and monasteries that was to be free of political, religious, and feudal conflict, and where people would have sanctuary and be safe from harm. And Ireland still has villages which are called Ancherman. And you're all familiar with the Celtic rune of hospitality, and then the Celtic proverb, which reads, "It is in the shelter of each other that the people live." So we're not talking about a novel, unimagined, new idea, but one that has a long history in Britain and Ireland. And I'm encouraging churches to go back in history so that we may discover there our future. And the concept of sanctuary is rooted in the Bible, in the idea of cities of refuge. And the Hebrew scriptures refers only once to the idea of loving your neighbor, but 37 times it calls us to love the stranger. And sanctuary in churches used to assist those who claimed to be innocent of a crime, but in the last few decades, it has developed in churches in Central America, in the USA, in Britain and Ireland, primarily to protect immigrants or refugees facing deportation by the state. So now we need sanctuary churches who wish to meet and greet new arrivals fleeing from war and hunger. We need sanctuary for all vulnerable people. In the current coronavirus context, Church of Sanctuary is a commitment to ensure congregations go out of their way to ensure asylum seekers, refugees, and other isolated and vulnerable people are kept socially connected and have access to support and protection. When we come past coronavirus, and we must ensure that this work continues. Our work is to make sure no one is isolated and that we keep people connected. So build virtual sanctuaries within your virtual congregations for this. And so in summary, Church of Sanctuary works by 3 steps. as follows. Number one, the Church of Sanctuary is one where the congregation will do all you can to learn about what it means to be seeking sanctuary and to be actively involved in raising awareness, being informed. Number two, it's about embedding our actions and taking positive actions to make welcome and inclusion the very ethos, the very heart of your congregation, so that it's not one or two activists who are engaged in this work, but the whole congregation shares in the work. And it's the very culture of the congregation to be a place of welcome and hospitality and safety. And thirdly, that you will do this loudly and proudly. Share your vision and achievement and let others know about the positive contributions you are making to make refugees feel welcome amongst us. So we're not doing this under the radar in a timid and shy way, but in a something that we feel proud about, that this is what we're all about as a congregation and the church. The Church of Sanctuary, the Hospitality and Sanctuary resource gives you resources and you can use that. It has 5 sections in it. Section 1 explores the idea of God taking sanctuary amongst us. Section 2 calls for hospitality to the stranger and looks at biblical and interfaith perspectives. Section 3 introduces discussion around the themes of the gift that people bring to us from other countries. And fourthly, there's a section on the very idea of city of sanctuary and building cultures of welcome and hospitality, and how to be a sanctuary to yourself. Section 5 offers ideas for worship and prayer and how we can become a church of sanctuary. So the resource concludes with reflection on what a church of sanctuary is. So there's a lot of detail there. I so add, making your place of worship a sanctuary where all are treated with warm welcome, generous hospitality, and protection from harm. The Christian symbol of Holy Communion, a revelation of the world as it meant to be, a foretaste of the heavenly banquet, we pray. But it's also a revelation of the world as it should be, a world where all are welcome and valued, and where no one is excluded or made to feel like an outsider. I came to Britain in 1964, and in today's terms, I would be called a refugee. And what really brought me into church was the welcome I received the first time I went to a church. I'll never forget walking into a church as a young 15-year-old and somebody greeting me with a hand and saying, "You're welcome here, young man." And because of that welcome, I have now a 40-year history of ministry in the life of churches and all that I bring, including the whole City of Sanctuary movement, which began in my ministry here in Sheffield, where I live. And I was glad to share some of this work when I had the honor and privilege of working as leader of Corrimila for a while. Just to conclude my comments to you, because I don't want to encroach into other bits of the timetable, let me conclude with some words from the poet laureate Andrew Motion, whose words are written large on a wall in Sheffield, on the wall of Sheffield and Hallam University, in the city where I live. And on the words are his words which say, "O traveller from somewhere to here, to wander through the labyrinth of air, pause now and let the sight of this sheer cliff become a priming place from which lifts you to speculate. What if? What if? What if?" So that's my question to you. And that's what my vision and dream is. What if? What if we could all work together to bring our diverse populations into shared conversations, even if they are difficult conversations, on how we can work together to build better understandings, deeper relationships, and mutual respect and trust, and genuinely accept each other as human beings. So I share with you my three challenges, the three things I would like to see happening. What we as human beings, individuals can do. One, be human and call others back to their humanity. Two, be hospitable and call others to be hospitable. And three, always challenge hostility and hatred. And you do this when you challenge inhumanity and inhospitality. The way ahead, my dear friends, my dear sisters and brothers, is to widen and deepen relationships across different creeds and cultures and colors and identities, to end hatred and to build cultures where all are welcome and valued and belong equally together and have sanctuary and are safe. In words that come to us from the past, together we can seek the welfare of the city in which we live, for in its welfare lies the welfare of all. We can be united in building hospitality. All human beings are human with stories and names and deep relationships. All want empathy more than sympathy, respect more than pity. We have fantastic opportunities in our multi-ethnic and plural societies to meet with each other and to eat with each other, to share our stories and discover our interconnectedness and to link the local with the global. We belong to each other. And as that old Celtic proverb says, it is in each other's shelter that we shall really live. That's the only way forward. We want the best for ourselves, and we can work together to ensure the best for everyone. How we relate to each other, and in particular to people seeking sanctuary and safety, will be central to humanity as we move forward. How we treat those who are in the greatest need for safety will be the measure by which we shall judge personal, national, and international morality and spirituality. You who are gathered here, I know, will not be found wanting because of your commitments and because of all you do and all that you are and all that you bring to the table. You are amazing people. You are the people of God, and you, I know, are doing what God requires of us. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for your commitment. I know you could be doing 3 or 4 other things today, but thank you for making the time and the space in your diaries to be with us. And we are blessed because of your company. Thank you, Damien, and I'll pass on to the next panelist.
Well, thank you so much, Inderjit. Goodness, there was so much in that. I felt like every sentence could be unpacked for 5 minutes. But no, I really appreciate you sharing with us. It was quite profound and powerful, I thought. I suppose just especially one thing that jumped out at me was the power of an explicit declaration of welcome, both from up front, if you want, but also at a personal level. When somebody steps up and shakes your hand and says welcome to you, it's a very powerful thing indeed, you know, as a starting point. I'm going to hand over now to Abigail, but before I do, I've put up a couple of links, including one to that resource, Hospitality and Sanctuary for All, that Inderjit mentioned. And I'll put up another few links towards the end as well, with some more pointers around where to begin. Again, feel free to add questions to the Q&A as we go, and then we can put them to the panelists later. Thanks very much, Inderjit, and I'll pass over to you now, Abigail.
Thanks very much, Damien and Nicola, for organizing, and everybody for taking their time to be here this morning. I'm going to get started with a few remarks, and then Ellie and I are going to do a bit of a tag team in the middle. So I'll be bringing Ellie into the conversation after the first few slides. I did put a few things on slides, so I'm just going to share the screen and get that up for you there. And I just wanted to, Inderjit's done such a really deep work of talking about the background of the sanctuary movement. And so what I wanted to make, just to capture in these slides, was something of the sanctuary journey for Christ Church Cathedral, and how we stepped in and began to engage with the sanctuary movement. We kind of came at it specifically as we were wrestling with the issue of direct provision. So often churches are expected, should want to, have a desire to, are being asked to respond to a whole variety of social issues, current events, all sorts of things. And it's good, it's appropriate, it's important that churches really have a hands-on look at what's going on in society around them. How should they be responding to things? But there can also be kind of a pressure there to just, do something, to make a statement, to do something, to be seen to be doing something. And that's always something we should be examining ourselves, that when we respond to an issue, we're making a genuine, a thought out, and a response that we're going to follow through on, and not just to be seen to be doing something kind of a response. So when we make a response, are we responding to an issue? Are we responding to maybe some dynamics within our particular parish or church community? Are we responding to some questions that are coming at us from the wider society? Or are we actually responding to people, the people who are affected by whatever the issue is? In our case, we really felt confronted by the issue of what was going on with direct provision. And we started to think about what is the situation for people who live in this system and have to endure through this. That was kind of our entry point into the conversation. And we thought, we're responding to people and the lived experiences of people. And as a church, we also want to respond theologically. So not just a kind of maybe a surface level of doing something good, but really where can we go within our roots of theology to make this response? And Inderjit really drew on so many things from the background of our faith tradition for how to ground a response that is the sanctuary response. We in Christ Church Cathedral are the Church of the Most Holy Trinity. That's our formal name. And so as deep and profound as, maybe Trinitarian theology is, not the first thing that gets discussed every morning by every person who belongs to our churches. But within our cathedral, we have these two portrayals of the Trinity. The one that you see on the left-hand side there that looks like a little triangle, it has the different names of the persons of God in Latin, and it's a kind of a schematic drawing of the Trinity. The one that's on the right there, probably be a very familiar image to a lot of people, the Rublev icon. And when I considered these two portrayals of the Trinity, the sort of triangular one I thought of as the philosophical portrayal, and the icon, the Rublev icon, it's more like the artistic, the sensory, the empathetic portrayal. It's a portrayal that really draws in. And I feel like that's something that for us, we really grounded our sanctuary response. Because when you look at that icon, that image there of the figures, it's like you're standing at the other side of the table, and the three figures are inviting you into their conversation, inviting you into their relationship. And that became for us a way to think about how could we engage with this movement? How could we extend the cathedral's hospitality and welcome to those who may not normally be here? So again, just to kind of get into that, those deep ideas of communion and connection, that at the heart of our faith, we hold as a core value that kind of relationship and connectedness of the persons of God, and that we are invited into that connectedness. And then that is what overflows from our lives to bring other people into health, into positive relationship, and into connection. So what we receive and experience, we are able to extend to others. But how can we think maybe in surprising ways about what it means to be someone who is hospitable? And what I've learned over the few years of trying to engage and work in this way is there's a kind of a bit of turning things on the head that can happen when we engage with people who are different, and we think about, we may think of ourselves as a person extending hospitality. But if we reflect then on, again, extending on those deep ideas of our faith, the idea of Christ coming and being one with us, there's a kind of subversion of where, God becoming and being present, being the one who receives hospitality from humanity. And Jesus being the recipient of meals, the recipient of hospitality. And then we ourselves, how are we people who receive from others, who receive hospitality, and then how do we extend hospitality? So not looking at ourselves as people who are necessarily in positions of power, positions to extend charity, but actually seeing what are mutual relationships. That was kind of something that we had to think about ourselves. How do we see relationships of mutuality, not as maybe like charity that's going in one direction? And I think that's an important aspect, again, of engaging with kind of City of Sanctuary movement, churches of sanctuary. We went on to, through sort of different connections and experiences, and again, specifically for us, it was the issue of direct provision that was our entry point into all this. We started a series called What's the Story? And we invited some who were living in the direct provision system to be able to come and speak. We've over the last few years, it hasn't happened this year because of the COVID situation, but previous years, invited people to come and speak and just given them the opportunity to share a reflection, inviting them to share a reflection on family, home, or time, and just to be able to speak from the heart, to be able to talk about what their experiences were, and to feel that their experiences were heard. So that's one way that we entered into the conversation. The other important way for us, and this is where I'm gonna call Ellie into the conversation here, was we had an introduction to our table. And Ellie is a strong person, a force of nature. And we've been blessed, and as we've been able to learn and kind of grow with her and see our table grow. So we were so first captivated by the image of our table, that idea of conversations around a table, around food that break down barriers, because the connection with the images of the Eucharist are so strong. So it was really, really powerful to kind of see her working in that way. And so, Ellie, I wanted to give you the chance maybe to speak from your perspective. So you spent so many years living through direct provision. So you had experiences not only in Dublin, but in the previous place you visited, and you had a couple different experiences with different churches. So could you tell us a little bit?
So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Ellie Kisyombe, as Abigail and Damien mentioned, and I'm a founder of Our Table Dublin. And I've been spent many years in direct provision. My first experience of being able to carry out my work started in late 2011, when I was approached by the CEO of Irish Refugee Council to actually partake on a volunteer job to voice over for asylum seekers, because they felt like they were doing work without someone really from that background. So I've been involved myself, going there, help out, and then that she kind of like really liked my enthusiasm, and then she was like, Ellie, do you want to be part of us? But we don't have much to go on with you, but you know, as long as you know you find your way here. But that was one of the best thing that started happening in my life, because for me, I didn't just see the for them to invite me over, like what Dr. Inderjit said, that, you know, we people coming over to seek sanctuary, we don't need sympathy, we need empathy. I felt like I was valued and I could do something with that. So I went on, and unfortunately, when you're in direct provision, there are so many things that happen, you know. You tend to be, when you're a little bit vocal, when you have a voice, you tend to become an enemy of the system. So I become moved from different places, whereby there was even a time that I had to take myself out of the system because the pressure was just too much. But unfortunately, I couldn't also survive on my own, because that could have bring you so much. So I had to put myself in. I thrived till in 2014, when I met this lady that we founded up our table. So through that, that was like the changing also moment for me. But then there was still something that was really, really lacking. We actually pulled up our table, and people supported us, the nation supported us. But I'll go back to Abigail. She's actually said that people have to be doing something, not being seen that they're doing something, but doing something that they're really, really sure that this is what we're doing and we want to get something. And I'm actually saying that because like when Abigail was saying about me, I started tearing up, because that has proved to be a strong bond between me and the Christ Church. So in late 2017, our table was kind of like falling apart, because I found myself in a situation whereby I had too many people that wanted to be seen to be doing something for asylum seekers. And I remember when we were doing our table, we were approached by Abigail. And at that time, things just kind of like, I don't know what really happened, because there were many people that were involved. So even also me coming from a spiritual background, and also believing that church has always been part of me, because even in Ballyhonest, when I was in Ballyhonest, when I was finding things difficult, I remember turned to a convent, to a Catholic church in Ballyhonest. Although we didn't really do much there, but it was also my new time, and but there were a few things that really happened, right? So I remembered that, oh, you know what? The time that we were actually studying this, we were approached by the Christchurch Cathedral to want to do something with them. And then why can I just go back and try to explore this avenue? Because this kind of like phase of trying to be doing something, it's also kind of killing my spirit. And I don't want to look people in a very different way. I'm a very, very positive person. In despite of like hardest time or darkest time, I always look the brighter side of where I can follow. So for me at that time, my brighter side was to go and try the Christ Church. So I went to sit down with, I made a call to Reverend Abigail Sines, and yeah, she just like openly welcomed me, like, oh, okay, do you want to come to the office? So like I went there, and then we sit down, and you were like, this is what's happening. I'm back from Balimalu, and I need the way forward for our table, because my co-founder, she's just now decided that she won't move on with this, but I am an asylum seeker. This problem is my problem. I really need to highlight it, and I can't stop, but I don't have anything to go with. So they said, okay, we are going to have you here, and the first we can actually welcome the first pop-up our table in the Christchurch Cathedral. and we started, and that was like our birth. So we started, that was late 2017. Was it late 2017? Was it, Abby? Yeah. Yeah. Between, that was a conversation for 2017, we should say so, because I came back from Balimalu sometime in June, July. So we started that, and then we ran around. We did a few events that we helped to raise a little bit money. And then in February 2018, we first saw a seed of our table dabbling in the Christ Church Cathedral. My journey has been, everything has been exciting, has been perfect. And that was one of the amazing thing. It was a big event. We had, on the launch, we had over 250 people. We had all the media house come in, and, it was beautiful. And our first pop-up started, we had the Lord Mayor of Dublin. And even during that time, during the time in the Christ Church, we employed about 10 people fully paid. And also we had over 20 volunteers that came in. And since that, Christ Church has always been, it's my home. I've got a key for Christ Church Cathedral. If you want to know, if I want, I go in there anytime I want. If I have this crazy idea, I just walk in straight into the dean's office and sit down and like, Dean, how can we do this? And Dean will be just like, Ellie, I'll leave you to do, I'll leave you to do whatever you want. You're welcome here. And, as long as everything is done, perfectly and, legally, which I've always done things like that. And I've always, this has, I'm finding hard to find real words, but there is something that I actually found in the Christ Church Cathedral, in the church itself, and being able to work with people like Abigail and the dean and many others that are in the church. I found this authenticity of not only apathy, but the genuinity that happens in there kind of like free my spirit, that I've walked the hardest part of being an asylum seeker or being a refugee. You bring all sorts kind of people that are worried, are fully of depressed, they have so much baggage in them that sometimes you can take them in a place whereby once you walk in there, you are already judged. People start treating you differently. But I've bring this type of people in the church, which is, I'm talking of like, we've been hundreds and maybe up to 1,000 of people from walks in and out in the Christ Church Cathedral. But I have never had any problem or working out that even a single moment that someone has come, which I've done pop-ups, I've saved food, I've come out with a lot of complaints and stuff like that. But I've never had that feel. Sometimes things can go wrong, but it's just kind of like, it's a part of like, there is a family stem that's in there, that, things kind of like sorted itself, that you are in a place whereby you are very, very much comfortable and people are very much comfortable. People have even now grow their relationship to themselves, that even in the center around Dublin, people can actually just call me today like, oh, Ellie, thank you so much. I walked to the church and, I met Rev Abigail Sines and I met the dean and I had this going on, and they've actually, helped me to get through to the next step that I could have actually get to. And also not even only that, as you've understand that our table is a social enterprise, and that means we also part of like economically, we are kind of like contributing to that. And we just find our last audit that was in June, July, which we actually, my accountants just said, like during the time that we've actually settled out our revenue, we've paid so much amount, which is a great 10 amount of the revenue that we've paid to the government. And just to see that the Christ Church also has been a part of us, bringing this movement, and for us to be able to have this, like credible history that we also contributed to the economy, that also has been part of the, a very emotional part of me. So this is how the Christ Church has always been, and I'm sure that is always going to be part of our journey, which we are expecting all this madness to go out, and we are looking forward maybe to set up again something in 2021 or 2022. So yeah, so I just want to give, like other people who are coming from other church, that it is possible that people can actually do this in your churches. And there are many Ellies out there that they can be part of your family. And, like, it's like a baby. When you make a baby comfortable and give them your trust, there is nothing unbreakable bond like having a trust and a connection with people. And I think that's something that I have with people in the Christ Church Cathedral. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ellie. Thank you so much for telling the story from your perspective, as I think that's important, that if we want to extend welcome, it's something that goes both ways. Like we have a lot to learn from others who come to us and who come from different places. So Ellie, thank you for being part of our journey and contributing to our learning in that way. I'll just have one or two more slides. I'll just kind of finish that up just with a bit more information there. Let's see. So, I think there's only one Ellie, but now Ellie has said that there are other Ellies out there to be discovered. So maybe our connection with our table was something particular to our place. But as she said, maybe there are other opportunities, other things that we haven't imagined that might emerge when we open ourselves to those friendships and those connections. So just the final kind of suggestion for just thinking about, to put in your thinking caps as you think about is there a step that you can take? Is there a way that your church can observe a Refugee Week, which happens each year? World Refugee Day is on the 20th of June. Inderjit, when he opened, began kind of talking about the Refugee Week in the coming year in 2021. Now I realize that is a .org.uk website address there, but I assure you that they have many good suggestions and ideas and things to offer that might prompt your creativity, prompt your thinking for some ideas that can be shared in the Irish context as well. And just to say that COVID happened this year. It happened as we were planning what we were going to do for Refugee Week 2020. But somehow we remained undaunted. And we had planned to do a kind of an art exhibition with a group called Art Nomads. That's a group of artists from a whole range of diverse backgrounds, and including some who've come through the asylum process here in Ireland. And we knew we wouldn't be able to do that the way we originally planned it and envisioned it, but we actually took the whole thing online, and it was amazing to kind of work with the group, work with the artists, and make the artists, even if they couldn't personally come to be part of the setting up of the virtual exhibition, but that they felt something special and felt a kind of a particular sense of welcome from the church, that their artwork could be shared through this medium. So we had this team collaborate. They created videos. We had artworks projected in the cathedral space, and then created a video walking through the cathedral space. And then it was shared via our Facebook and a website, and other people shared on through their social media channels. So is maybe we all are putting our thinking caps on now in the era of COVID for how we can adapt our plans and activities. But I trust the Holy Spirit to be able to work, and it can be done. And then just the final maybe suggestion or thing to put in your thinking cap of possible ways to engage is Sanctuary Sunday, which comes at the end of Refugee Week each year. So Sanctuary Sunday in the coming year is going to be Sunday the 20th of June. And there'd be, that's an idea that can be adapted to whatever your particular church's format, whether it's through liturgy, through some other kind of way of people informally being able to share their experiences. But that's one thing that you might consider putting in your church calendar. That's all I wanted to say for just to kind of share what our journey has been in going through the sanctuary process. So coming through a thinking, reflecting, engaging with an issue, and then trying to genuinely develop relationships like people with Ellie and others as well, to make our place hospitable to them. I know that, not every church is located in Dublin city centre. Every church, every cathedral probably has different circumstances, different opportunities that may present themselves. And that's what I really want to encourage you, is that you have resources. If you have a hall with a kitchen, if you have an interesting, beautiful historic building, if you have a group of parishioners with time on their hands and who like to chat and talk with people, you have resources. So then it's just a matter of taking the next step. And I do trust that God's Spirit is at work and will connect us to opportunities when we're open to see them and to engage with them. So that's what I wanted to chip into the boat there for our thinking today.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abigail, for that. And thank you, Ellie, for sharing, both of you. You really, I think you personify what you were talking about when you both spoke about the importance of relationships of mutuality and the power of an authentic desire to connect with each other and to see the flourishing of each other, and your work together has really done that. So it's very powerfully evident. So thank you very, very much for sharing that. So now we can have a time for some questions to our panelists, and several of you have already sent some in. So I guess let's get cracking. I'm gonna unmute people so you can all reply. So just watch what you say now, because I've unmuted you. I guess I'll begin at the beginning. Denise Gabuzda, she has asked, it's one thing to reach out and connect with people who are seeking asylum, living in direct provision centres, who are from a Christian background. But obviously, we're called to show sanctuary and hospitality to all. So how have you reached out, or how can we reach out to people who aren't from a Christian background without giving them any sense of expectation or any pressure whatsoever to kind of participate in the Christian life, I suppose, of the church? How do you get that tension?
Before Abigail say, maybe answer that, can I answer that question? Because I saw it. So
course,
yeah. So I would actually say that when we were going into Christ Church, there were nothing for denomination. I think I just walked in there like somebody that maybe I'm Christian, that's my background. But when we walked in there, or the people that we've brought there, they've never been anything that us and the Christ Church, we've actually formally designed something in terms of bringing Christianity. On our event, I've never seen the church insisted on preaching the godly version for all the people that we've actually brought in. So I think that's not an issue. I think it can be possible. It depends on the type of people that are coming in there. I'm just taking in that question because that's one of the experiences that we've had. Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add there, Abigail, to that?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts. So I think you can think about a number of different ways of engaging with people. So for us, I mean, we have a lovely historic building in the city center. So one way of engaging and welcoming people was initially I just wrote to Direct Provision Center kind of managers in the area, I said, we would like to invite people to come and have a free guided tour and a cup of tea. So, you know, a lot of our church buildings are, they might be at the center of a city or a town or a village. They might be historic or, you know, have unique things about them that we want to, you know, make people welcome to come and see these just places as landmark locations in our communities. So in one sense, you know, we just wanted to make the welcome there. There was no expectation that people had to come. But we found that people did come, and they, you know, from different, you know, religious backgrounds. And there was, you know, there was a curiosity. It was a chance they could walk around and see the church. You know, there was no service taking place, but so in a way, it was a chance to ask questions, maybe if they were curious, and then have the cup of tea and a chat. So that, you know, we viewed that as a very, you know, let's say like a low threshold engagement, very casual, and just really to say hello, to say welcome, and to let people ask questions. We're like working with Ellie in our table, like, or making a kitchen facility or something like that. I mean, so many parishes have a parish hall with a kitchen or whatever the case may be. I mean, in that way, you're just essentially sharing your space with someone. And there's, you know, there's no specific religious expectation about that. You have a resource and you're making that resource available to someone who maybe previously didn't know they could avail of it, didn't know that it was out there. So you're extending welcome in that way. And finally, I would say though, like, you know, us in Dublin City Centre, obviously for services or things that are taking place, we get visitors from all over the world. So it's not, you know, should someone have a curiosity and want to attend a service, there's absolutely no issue here, because we often have many different visitors from all over the world, from variety of religious backgrounds, and they would say that themselves. They would maybe say, oh, can I attend this service? Oh, I'm not a Christian. Welcome, come, have a seat, listen, watch, whatever. If you find this place peaceful, and that's what some people did say to us, you know, they found coming into the church to be, you know, a place that was peaceful, and they were surprised and happy that they were made to feel welcome there, even though they, you know, there wasn't a religion necessarily that they shared or anything like that. So I don't think, maybe sometimes we feel a bit hesitant or a bit fearful. So I don't think we need maybe to have come at it that way. I think we need to make ourselves open. Now, when we make ourselves open, we make ourselves vulnerable in a way, because maybe we put an invitation out, we don't know how people will respond to it. But I think when we're open and put the invitation out there, then you might be surprised at who does respond and who does come to appreciate that welcome.
Thanks, Abigail. I think that's something that struck me in conversations with you, you know, the need to be courageous. You know, we don't know how things will turn out, and sometimes that makes us nervous. And it does take a bit of guts, I suppose, sometimes to say, okay, look, let's try this and we'll see what happens. And I suppose some things will work and some things may not. But I suppose our confidence to do that, you know, can be rooted in our assurance that that is what God wants us to do. You know, as Inderjit and you, Abigail, both explained, you know, there's a strong basis for doing all we can to make sure that we are places where people find sanctuary, and where, you know, that's an expression of God's love through us for all who we encounter. Inderjit, was there anything that you wanted to add there to that?
Yeah, it's important to remember that at present, two-thirds of the world's refugees are from just 5 countries, namely Syria, Afghanistan, South Sudan, Myanmar, and Somalia. And the chances are that many people who come to take refuge and sanctuary are people from other faiths than the Christian faith. And it's important, therefore, to be quite upfront right at the beginning. As it's sanctuary is not just for people of Christian faith in churches. Church is open to all. Everyone is welcome and invited. But sanctuary is not an evangelistic tool. It's not about proselytizing. It's about just being Christian. It's about offering genuine humanity and hospitality, and welcome to people, and to make sure they feel safe, because that's what people want. City of Sanctuary started off, okay, it started in my ministry, but actually it, as a movement now, it's open to all faiths, and also people who profess no particular religious faith. And you have schools of sanctuary, universities of sanctuary, theaters of sanctuary, and so on. And all those places have that kind of recognition because they are open to everyone. And that's exactly what a church of sanctuary would be: open to all people without exclusion. We want to make sure people feel welcome, and Abigail and Ellie have given really good examples of how to do that. And hospitality, everybody understands. It's not a preserve of Christians only. And sharing food like at open table is just, uh, uh, it's a way of including everyone when you share food. So it is for all, not just for Christians.
Thank you, Inderjit. Okay, now just a slight change of subject. Colin is wondering if you have any suggestions for how to connect with people and reach out to people, in the midst of restrictions because of COVID-19, which makes it more difficult to connect with people in direct provision centres, or other people who are new to the community, and B, direct provision has a specific problem that people often get moved to another centre. How do you sustain those connections? Have you any thoughts around those questions?
I would, just to chip in, my suggestion is, so like we have a few people that we have already kind of a friendship with who are in centres in Dublin city centre. So there is, at least the possibility of, saying, oh, well, if you just want to have a chat or something, that, if you want to come by and we can sit outside. We had a couple guys that came, helped us with raking leaves the other day, and it was one of them's birthday, and so sure, I brought in a few cupcakes, and we were able to celebrate this man's birthday in the midst of these few guys coming along to help out. So it was outdoors, it was social distance, it was good. I certainly find it a challenge to form new relationships in the kind of COVID situation. But I would say, even if people, if you've had some friendships or some connections and maybe people have been transferred to a different place, that's, it may be possible to do Zoom chats or something like that online. So even if people have moved a distance, that, if they would like to do that, if they would like to keep a contact and just feel that there's someone checking in on them, that's one option. The other value of building a Churches of Sanctuary network is that maybe if you find that someone moves from place to place and with their permission, with their interest, you might say, oh, would you like me to see if there's someone locally maybe you could connect with? So again, if there's ways to make the most of the network, because again, being in Dublin and with people, a lot of people move through Dublin and then maybe get sent elsewhere. I've often tried to make the effort, if it's somebody that I've met and they have some interest, they're interested in a church or they're from a Christian background or whatever the case may be, to try to find out where they're going and is there a possibility of contacting, do I have a colleague, do I have a friend, do I have a former classmate or whatever, anyone that I might connect them with, just that they feel in some way cared for. Now, it may be that they get to the new place and they're fine, but maybe it was just reassuring along the way that they felt that someone was making an effort to kind of help them or encourage them that way or follow up with them. So I've maybe no great suggestions to make for how to form new relationships with people virtually right now. But if there are ways to keep in touch with people who have been moved on, or to use the grounds, the open grounds of our churches, our areas, to just have chats and meet up with people outdoors in a way that's safe and socially distanced for those who do live locally to us, that would be my encouragement.
Thanks, Abigail. Yeah, so I think, as the network of churches of sanctuary and places of sanctuary develops and grows, that could be a real resource for when people move from one area to the other, because we could connect them with other people who are in other churches and organizations that are participating in it. Inderjit or Ellie, is there anything there you'd like to add for that?
I think Abigail has explained it better. It's about connecting with people and, like asking other people to help you to make few connections. I think she's explained it better. I was all over the place, so I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I think that's one of the best ways to connect with people.
I agree, Ellie. Yeah, Abigail, thank you. That you've said it all very well, and there's nothing else to add to that. Thank you. Yeah, good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, there's no doubt it is very difficult to develop connections, and sometimes to get into direct provision centres is challenging as well. But we need to keep trying, I suppose. I mean, another point is that this isn't just focused on people who live in direct provision centres. This is, there's people who feel excluded or who have difficulty making connections in all of our communities, whether or not there's a direct provision centre in them. And part of this is to help us to connect and reach out to them. So let's, there's a few other questions around how this relates to other faiths. I think you've kind of expressed that quite well, Inderjit, but just to confirm that the City of Sanctuary, the Places of Sanctuary movement itself is not limited to Christian engagement. Obviously, the Churches of Sanctuary element of that is seeking to encourage churches to live out their faith in this way. But the movement itself is encouraging all different types of organizations and groups in Ireland to commit to being places of welcome. Perhaps you'd like to just clarify that, Inderjit, and what that means to churches wanting to be involved in the Church of Sanctuary movement.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So at the moment, through Churches Together in Britain and Ireland, Irish Council of Churches, we're encouraging churches specifically to engage. And we want churches to engage with everyone, with all faiths. But the next stage, Damien, is that through interfaith networks around Britain and Ireland, we're going to be looking at promoting this in mosques and mandars and synagogues and so on. So I saw a question about that. And we have to bear in mind the whole concept of cities of sanctuary. It's actually come from the Hebrew concept of the cities of refuge, from Hebrew scriptures, from the books of Leviticus and Numbers and Joshua and so on. And people like Jonathan Sachs, who sadly died last week, I've talked with him and he's really helped me to think about what a church of sanctuary is all about, to relate it to cities of refuge. So I think, there are synagogues of sanctuary, and that's really growing. So it's a concept that is universal. The idea of hospitality and safety and sanctuary, and all faiths contain within them the values, those values, and in that resource I've referred to hospitality and sanctuary for all. I've referred to scriptures from the major world faiths to say how this is enshrined in all faiths.
Damien, can I chip in there as well? Just to give as well a bigger picture. So there's a kind of an umbrella organization called Places of Sanctuary Ireland. So, you know, if you think of churches as one subset, then you've other kind of subsets as well. So there's been a great uptake in terms of schools of sanctuary across the island, and also universities of sanctuary, so third level colleges and universities. So actually across the island, there's been that engagement in different ways. So a school or a university expressing their joining into the ethos of the sanctuary movement, obviously that's something that's not faith specific. That's a kind of because a school or a university is a multi ethnic, multicultural, multi-faith environment. So there's an expression of sort of joining into the ethos of a movement of hospitality and respect and inclusion. And what Inderjit referred to, that idea of embedding it in the structure of the organization, really making it something real and a priority. So just to keep that in your mind as well, is that there's encouragement for all different types of, there was even talk about libraries of sanctuary at one point. I don't know how far that's progressed in Ireland, but that idea that shared spaces, public spaces, specifically intentionally sign up to that kind of ethos. And that's happening in different kinds of sectors under that kind of places of sanctuary banner, and then churches being one specific subset of that.
I'm deeply humbled, Damien, Abigail, by the way the whole sanctuary idea is just growing in all kinds of different contexts, as you say, Abigail. Thank you. And it's just amazing, difficult to keep in touch with all the different developments. And I think the key to it, I think, is just the concept of sanctuary. It's caught the imagination of people across faiths and organizations, and as I say, people who profess no particular religious faith. They all understand what sanctuary means, and it applies to human beings, it applies to animals. You know, there are sanctuaries for donkeys and what have you, and it's a universal concept. And I think the best thing about it is that it doesn't need to be explained. You say sanctuary and people know what it means, and that's great.
Thanks, Inderjit. Yeah, no, I think that's key to the kind of power of the movement. I just want to draw attention to a couple of things in the chat. Elaine Murray has a resource that the Cork Three Faiths Forum has produced, and if you want to see that, you can email her. Her email address there is in the chat, emitincork@gmail.com. Thank you, Elaine. And Adrian Christer is Executive Officer of the Dublin City Interfaith Forum, and he just wants to say that they have met with Places of Sanctuary and are looking at how that could be worked out through the forum to connect with the other faith communities in Ireland. And now I want to promise you that we'll finish after 90 minutes. So we're soon going to just move into our kind of final section. But Ellie, if you could maybe briefly just answer one question that's been raised. Just share with us quickly, what does a typical Our Table event look like?
So a typical Our Table event, it's a setup of a cafe, which supports and helps people from migrant background, people that have lived in direct provision, that are still in direct provision, and also shares the community. So we set up a cafe, we employ people, we break bread with the community. We organize community events, and we also part of it that actually helps us to sustain our work is a cafe that sells in a day-to-day services. So we cater for events, corporate, public, and community events, and we also sell day-to-day takeout foods and coffee, and like a proper restaurant setup.
Fantastic, Ellie. Thank you very much. I'm going to post the link to our table as well on the chat in a minute.
Yes.
But before I do that, I'd like to hand back over to Abigail, if that's okay, just to go through, if you are interested in finding out more, if you would like to explore with your church what it would mean to be a church of sanctuary, how do you actually go about doing it? What are the practical steps involved? So Abigail's going to share with us about that for a few minutes, and then I'll ask Inderjit if he would bring the meeting to a close for us in prayer.
Great.
Thanks, Abigail.
Okay, I've got just one final slide there. So I wanted to try to make it as, let's say, as straightforward as possible. So becoming part of the sanctuary movement, why would you want to do that? Well, it's an opportunity to share stories, to get inspiration from others, to learn about opportunities, and to amplify a message of care and inclusion across our island. So there is your invitation to be part of this. This happens at the moment under that banner, that umbrella organization, Places of Sanctuary Ireland. If you are interested, you want to kind of embark on the process, please feel free to email me, and I will help you, guide you through time thinking and preparing and discussing and all that. Begin discussion with decision makers in your parish, church, or fellowship, whatever your structure is, select vestry or whatever, council, whatever that may be, and adopt a statement of commitment. I have a template available, which I can share with anyone who's interested, that just says that your decision-making organization for your parish or church is making a positive affirmation along the lines of that sanctuary ethos. And we have a kind of a statement of that available that you would adopt as a resolution in a minute and share with your membership that you're saying yes to this statement of ethos. Engage in some awareness raising activities amongst your congregation or members. And so the link that's already been shared, that Inderjit, the kind of study and discussion guide that he prepared, Hospitality and Sanctuary for All resource, is a great way to do that. We can also make suggestions for someone who may be able to come and speak. That's something that we did within the Cathedral. We gathered together some key stakeholders. So they were chapter members, board members, and members of our friends and our core congregation, and a representative from the Dublin City of Sanctuary organization at the time came and did kind of an awareness, a learning session for us about to understand what is a refugee, what are the rights that a refugee has, what are the factors that can drive migration and issues going on, what are the trends? And that was really helpful for us. So that was kind of our first step of awareness raising among our congregation. You might then start either to work towards maybe doing something next year for Refugee Week, maybe trying to plan, do a few things. Pray, never leave prayer out of it. Pray and ask God to show you what are the opportunities where you are and with the people who live in the area where you are. And then I feel like there's probably so many people that are even maybe listening to this webinar, you're already doing things. Maybe your parish is already doing quite a lot. It's just that you haven't formally signed up to the sanctuary charter or anything like that. So it's just a matter of maybe documenting things that you've already done, or as you explore and look for opportunities, document some goals or some steps that you want to take to be active and engaged under the banner and this ethos of sanctuary. And when you go through that process of kind of commitment, exploration, discussion, learning, and documentation, And then there's a kind of, at the end of it, that you can have a sort of a maybe an event or something where you'll receive your Church of Sanctuary certificate from Places of Sanctuary Ireland. So by all means, if you want to start in that process or learn more or explore it, please do feel free to email me.
Thanks so much, Abigail. So I hope that's clear. I've shared a few links there that will be useful. Now, just before we go, we've had a couple of queries to whether we can share the text of your presentation, Inderjit, and your slides there, Abigail, if that's okay. I can share that around. We've been recording this, so hopefully that's worked. And once that's uploaded, then I can also share the link to that. So I can circulate that to the attendees along with the links that I've put up in the chat afterwards. So I'll do that in the coming days. Before we close in prayer, I'd really like to thank you all for joining us. I hope you found it useful. Thank you for your questions. And thank you especially to Inderjit, to Abigail, to Ellie for sharing with us. I think it's been really helpful and really powerful. And we just look forward to seeing this work continue and grow. So I'll just hand over to you, Inderjit, to close in prayer for us. Thank you. Hang on, I'm going to unmute you.
Okay. Thank you, Damien, and thank you, Abigail and Ellie and Nicola and all the participants, all of you who have joined in. Really excellent seminar. And I'm to assure you, as I said at the beginning, of my support in all that you do. And I'm happy to teach for churches, virtually. If you invitation, just get in touch and I'll be glad to do that. I'll send you a text of my full presentation, Damien, and I'm happy for you to share that. Also, before I go, can I say to Abigail and Ellie, I'm updating the hospitality and sanctuary for at the moment, and CTBI publish that in paper copies as well as online. I'd love to have the story of the cathedral added there as an example. Could you write it up for me? That would be really good, and just send me, not long, but 500 words or so slides of A4 would be brilliant with the thing you've said to us. So thank you. I'm going to close with prayer, and I'll not make a participatory one, but we'll just pray together and close with what I call a sanctuary prayer. Okay, let's pray. So let's pray to God for the church throughout the world. The church is represented here in our seminar today, and especially all the diversity in our congregations, our neighbours of denominations, and we pray that we shall all be blessed by the grace of God, and that we shall be given the strength to bear witness to the grace and generosity and hospitality of God in our mission and ministry, in our worship, in our prayers. And let's pray God for all the nations and all leaders, that God will illuminate within them and before them pathways made from justice, mercy, and humility for all to walk, so that we build a world of peace. Let us pray to God for all who need help and support today, especially those who are particularly vulnerable and feel on the margin of society, and all those whom we carry in our hearts, for they are in our prayers, the grace of God will be upon them and bless them. Let's pray to God for all who are far from home, prisoners, immigrants, exiles, refugees, and all who seek sanctuary, students away from home at universities. We pray that God will be the shelter of their lives and souls, and help us to build communities of welcome, hospitality, and sanctuary for all. And let us pray to God for ourselves, maybe sanctuary to ourselves, and that we may be given the grace to follow Christ and practice his art of hospitality and welcome to the stranger. Let us hold in our prayers all who are alive, especially those who are in war. We remember those who die and give their lives in order to build justice and sanctuary for others. Remember those who perish in seas and deserts, even as they travel to seek sanctuary elsewhere. So we hold before you all those who have died, especially those whose memory is precious to us. Grant to them all these. You strengthen all who are bereaved, and bless all who mourn the loss of lives and their livelihood. Think at this time those who are caught within the coronavirus and all who provide care. And pray, Lord God, that you will grant to us the wisdom and encouragement from the vision, the witness, and example of all the saints who have gone before us. So we offer these our prayers, we offer ourselves to you, and we ask only this, that you keep us faithful to our calling, and in all things honor and glory to your name. And we pray in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen. So the Lord bless you and keep you, and make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. And the Lord fix his gaze and attention upon you and all who are in your prayers, and give peace in the name of Christ. Amen. Bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Inderjit. Well, thank you all for attending. I hope you found it useful, and please do get in touch with us if we can help with any questions you might have. You can use the info@irishchurches.org, or you can get to me if you want, Damien@irishchurches.org. That's DAMIAN. Thank you, Inderjit, Abigail, Ellie. We really appreciate all you've shared with us today. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for attending. Bye.